Waiting for it. Oh, we are live.
We're live.
And it is new
Yeah.
Conversation Corner, vlog, whatever you want to call it.
122.
Yeah, 122. Welcome. And market shift is what we're talking about today. Question mark, exclamation point, question mark. What does that mean? We're going to dive into that, but I'm going to let Levi take it right now and dive in, and then I'll kind of fill in some gaps. So take it away.
Thanks, dude. Happy Friday, y'all.
True.
Hope you guys are tuning in. Get some stats for you. The market has definitely shifted. That's what we're going to talk about today. Fill it in a little bit and to give you some statistical information and what that looks like for your home purchase or home sale, how that might possibly affect you. A little rainy outside today, so hopefully you're somewhere enjoying and watching this
video. It's a perfect time to watch a video. So
it is. But a couple things, we got some info on here, but I'm gonna just kind of go off the cuff here and talk about something that him and I have talked about a couple times in some past videos. Is the emotion, which is driving, I think, a lot of this that we're going to get into here in a second. Yeah.
You used an interesting word there, but go further. Emotion. Keep that in mind.
Yes. So right now we're in a very interesting time in the market. We're in a kind of a convergence, in my opinion, of two different emotions that we're seeing from the seller side of a transaction and also the buyer side of a transaction. First quarter, Q1 of this year, we had just madness, right? Everybody, if you're out there and you bought a house quarter one, you know that it was absolutely bananas. Everything was flying off the market within days. It seemed like you were having to come up sometimes $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 in order to get your offer accepted. Sellers weren't granting closing costs very much. In addition to that, you had to go see the house the minute it got listed in order to actually be able to go in and write an offer on it. So we had a lot of that going on, right? What happened with that is you have a lot of people posting on Facebook, oh, sold in one day, sold for $10,000 over, advertising this out to their spheres, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Good job for those realtors. But the problem is a lot of people in the market start to see this and it creates a reaction. So in an effort to go out and get more business, do more listings, that marketability kind of plays into one of these emotions here. So if you're a seller or potential seller, you think, oh, hey, now is the absolute best time to sell my house. I can get way more than what my home is actually worth and someone will pay it. It'll sell within hours. I need to get my house on the market as quick as possible, right? So that was one emotion. That was definitely quarter one leading into quarter two. So now we're seeing all these people with that mindset trying to jump on the bandwagon. Oh, hey, I need to get my house listed. I'm going to try to sell it, get as much money as I possibly can. So we're having the inventory now. The market's being flooded with inventory because of one of these emotions, right? The other side of that is if you're a buyer, you've gone through that Q1 and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so crazy. I had to pay, this much. I had to escalate to that. I had to do this. You're telling all this information to your friends and family, right? Talking about your experience. They're hearing it. They're seeing it being shared on Facebook. So in your sphere, that's also affecting a new potential purchaser, potential buyer, because now those people are going, wait a minute, that sounds like it sucks.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that.
I don't want to deal with that. I don't need to buy a house. I'm going to sit around and wait until I find the right house for me.
Yeah.
So that shift also end of Q1 into Q2. Now we have this mindset of buyers are being a lot more picky. They're looking for the right house. They're not as willing to escalate as high. They're asking for more closing costs. So we have these two kind of converging emotions, right? And we're seeing that, I think, that's of course my theory of the emotional side of it, but we're seeing that definitely in the numbers, and I'll get into those here right now. So a couple things, just comparing last year's numbers with this year's numbers. So May of 2017, number of homes on the market, about 2331. When compared to 2018, we actually have slightly less inventory in May. May was our peak month, by the way. Peak month, I think, even historically. But when you look at number under contract, we actually have, even though we had less inventory, we have more contracts than we did previous year. Number of closed, a little bit less. That's year to date. And then this is where it really gets interesting. You talk about the volume number, the dollars, right? How much homes are selling for now versus what they were before. You look at new construction, 313,172 is the average sale price for new construction. That's up from 2017 299. We also have existing homes, meaning previously occupied properties, current, or this is again in May, average sale price 177,000, previous year 165. So a pretty big jump. We're up 7% from the previous year for existing homes. We're up 5% for new construction in May, rounding out Q1, starting into Q2, right? Well, now that really leads us into June, the shift that Ryan and I started talking about back in May, and kind of leading us up to this point. And that's where I'm going to let him jump in, give you some of those stats, and let you know what's going on there.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know if you guys ever saw that video, but it was causing a lot of controversy and a lot of good controversy. But I basically came out and said, the seller's market bubble has burst. And people were like, well, what do you mean? Because they were talking about the same things that Levi was just sharing with you, these emotions. Well, this house sold in one day and all these other things and blah, blah, blah. But we were starting to see, we're looking at the numbers, and the numbers don't lie, right? So when you look at numbers and statistics, and then when we share our opinions with you and our expertise and our knowledge of what we've studied and sharing that with you guys, we don't just share some of those things just because we're like, well, I hope or I think this is going to happen. I usually don't share those things unless I'm starting to see the trend that it is going to happen. And so I can say that confidently, and knowing going into this and looking back at some of these numbers now, this is where the shift is beginning to take place. And I would say probably the next 12 to 18 months, you're going to really be able to see this shift actually in effect and taking place. And so that's why this is important for you to know. And so as we were talking about some of these things, I think the biggest thing that I wanted to hit on was going back to those houses that were quickly selling off the market. So we all know, and this hasn't changed, so I want to make that clear. If you're in the low end, when we say low end of the housing market, so I'm looking at something that's $100,000 all the way up to like $220,000, I would say we're calling that the low end real estate, okay? That isn't changing as far as anytime soon in going off the market quickly. We all know if you're a buyer out there and you're looking in this price range, it's still pretty crazy. It's still
it is.
You running around and having to go see the house right away because those houses are coming off the market 24, 48 hours if they're in really good condition and they're in a great location. In that price range, like we said, 177 is the average price in those existing housing. Well, a lot of that is first-time home buyers, and that's their price range, right? They're not going up over that 220 mark really for their first home. And so those houses are still flying off the market, right? But where the shift is beginning to take place is actually in this median or in the middle range, which I would say anything over 225 all the way up to like 450. We're starting to see those houses sit way longer than normal. And the reason for that, I'm going to let Levi talk about that because I'm talking a lot too. But there's a reason why there's a shift in that and why this is kind of going very slow and why the luxury market is actually a little bit faster. I'm putting slow there, but it's a little bit faster actually than the middle market that we're starting to see. Now, why is that?
Well, there's a lot of things, but really, and I would say this one, especially like we're talking about 300, 325 up to the 450, even the top of the kind of 500, beginning of the 500 mark. The main reason is because that tends to be, you got a situation where you have someone who's bought, they've been through a few seasons of owning homes, right? This is maybe their second purchase, third purchase, maybe even their fourth purchase, usually two-income family. Kids who are in, junior high or high school, moving into maybe their more nice forever house, right? So those buyers, because they've been through a few seasons of purchasing, are a lot more picky. They're looking for something specific. This is going to be for their forever home. They need something that fits their family's needs, and they're not really willing to budge on that. And also with those houses, there is a lot more out there. So they're trying to be a little bit more pickier, a little bit more selective. As far as the luxury market goes, the reason this one is actually probably, they don't sit as long in this middle tier here is because the luxury market is such a small niche.
Yep.
There's only a handful of buyers in that market. That's an exaggeration, but
Like,
there's
can
a
afford it.
a smaller pool of people who are looking at houses that are 500,000 plus into the millions, and there's only a handful of properties like those
Right.
that are on the market. So, you know, it's pretty average to see a property like that sit for what, 60, 90 days?
Yeah, even more.
Even
I
more
mean,
sometimes. Yeah.
And I think to go with that too, which kind of slows that down, is then you start getting into the competition of new construction.
Yes.
We're going to get into that in a little
Yeah.
bit, but then you're competing now with new construction. So if I'm going to pay $650,000, $800,000 for a home that's existing, why wouldn't I just go build my own
Yeah.
house and get everything I wanted, right? So you're kind of going back and forth with that. But something that's interesting now with new construction, whether people want to admit it or not, again, numbers are numbers. And the other day, building costs have continued to go up. Labor costs have continued to go up. We're again seeing lot prices and land prices go up, which therefore increase, you know, the house going up when you're going to build. If I were going to go build the same exact house that we just built,
Yeah.
right? Now, if we would have waited now, and then we started like a year ago, we're paying at least $25,000-$30,000 more
Additional
for the exact same house.
and everything. Yeah. It's
And
crazy.
it is crazy, but lumber costs have gone up like 30%, and all these other materials have gone up, and so that drives that price up with new construction. The problem that we're seeing now is that, and I think we even wrote it in here, you've got 725 new construction homes or more, because a lot of them probably aren't even being recorded, for sale.
June.
So spec homes in this month. So as of right now, we're in that 700-ish, if not more, houses for sale with new construction.
Yeah.
And we're seeing these houses and spec houses sit longer. And why is that? Well, I'm going to let Levi kind of get into these numbers now and these peaks and talk about this. So that will inform you guys of what's really going on in the market here in Omaha.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So building costs definitely are one thing. I think too, we saw the push for a lot of people trying to get into the market. So a lot of builders, a lot of new construction companies popping up, you know, thinking, oh, hey, there's a shortage on inventory. We're going to go create a builder company, whatever it is.
Yep.
So they start to build a lot of houses, right, to fill the void of low inventory. And essentially that void becomes overinflated, right?
Yep.
Or it gets filled essentially with new construction. So March, this is March of this year, right? Yes, March of this year. So new construction in peaked March of this year, 214 houses.
That's pending. So
that
that's
was
what's
pending or sold in March versus June, guys. This is, I mean, we're talking
That's crazy.
March to June, literally 110 less in terms of sales. So we're at 104 closed as of June already.
Yep.
That is a great, look at that. This curve, that's a nosedive right there. That is a literal nosedive. Existing homes in April, again, our peak, 1509 that were under contract, 1303.
Play back, Alan Stevens.
1303, so the bell curve here starting out to kind of round about and definitely losing a lot of volume there also. And when we compare that to inventory, this is what gets real crazy. When we compare actual sales to inventory, inventory is up by a big margin,
Yep.
even compared to this time last year. So we got much more inventory on the market, much fewer sales, which can only really translate into the market shift. People are being more picky, homes are overinflated, we have to get a little bit of stabilization. One other thing just to touch on before I let Ryan here close this out are that rates have actually remained pretty stable. We saw a pretty big hit first quarter this year where they literally changed overnight, 0.75 points. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. From third quarter or fourth quarter last year, first quarter of this year, we saw a massive increase in interest rates. The Fed raised rates a couple times. They're expected to towards the end of the year. But this last month, rates have actually maintained. They're pretty stable. Seen a couple.
When you say maintain,
Couple dips and dives.
where are we at in rates? What are we looking at on average?
Rates are individualistic, so it's too hard to say
Yep.
without pulling someone's individual personal information. 30 years, you're at high fours for a 30-year fixed. FHA is going to be close to that amount as well.
I'm
Yeah,
just gonna-
4.5 might be a little low. Yeah,
Okay.
like 4.65, 4.75, something
Plus.
like that for top tier.
Plus.
Yep. FHA actually is historically used to be lower than conventional always, but we're seeing that kind of them kind of actually converge and be about the same in terms of interest pricing now. So rates are actually they're still historically low, still really great spot. As far as affordability goes, because they're stable, it's still a really great time to buy a house. You can still get a lot of money for a really small payment in terms of financing over the life of your loan. So we know that rates are not having an effect on the market. They're not having a negative effect on the market because they have not changed that much. So the only thing we can really go back to are these two emotions translating into people being picky, not wanting to spend as much for homes, and homes just being overinflated in terms of their prices, which leads us to kind of where we're at in this shift.
Yep, and that's where, again, we're starting to see that. I've shared with you guys, and I still think that this is still happening. And the shift continuing to go forward is with these appraisals coming in. Again, we're still seeing appraisals come in lower than those prices. And so again, it's confirmation that the shift is here and that it's happening and that these houses cannot begin to continue to sell themselves at these higher prices, and sellers are getting what they want for them. The biggest thing that I tell people now, and that I've always said, is a listing price. All a listing price is a starting point, right? So like, yes, there were people that were getting list price or more for their houses. It happens, and we try to do our best to price you out in that area to set you up for that and to get you the most money in your pocket.
Yeah.
But I always tell my sellers, I'm like, it's a starting point. Your house is going to sell for what a buyer wants to pay for it. So you have to understand when that house goes up for sale and you've got it listed for $350 and you get a buyer that comes in and wants to pay $325, yes, it's sometimes offensive, and you don't have to take that offer by any means, by the way, but that's what that buyer is willing to pay for your house and what they think your house is worth, even though you've lived there 15 years and you've taken great care of it or whatever. They don't care about that stuff.
Right.
What they care about is, this is what I think this house is worth and what I want to pay for it. Now, obviously, you hope to get a counter and you go back and forth and it comes up and maybe you meet at $340 or something like that. But that's what I like to tell people, especially moving forward with this shift now. Like, that should be the expectation laid out front is, hey, listen, we're going to start here, but we may not end up here. So I just want to give you that expectation, that upfront service first, so so you're not like taken back when that first offer comes in. If it's sat on the market for a month or two and you feel like it's below that list, it's okay. You don't have to take that offer, but that's kind of the direction that we're going. So again, I'm saying, my gut tells me 6 months in, you're going to see a huge shift with that in price and negotiation and things like that. On average, probably, I would say no later than 18 months. Like, I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than that.
It happened quick. When we were talking back in April, May, we were saying, towards the end of the year, and here it is July. And the conversation we thought we'd be having at the end of the year, we're having right now. So it's pretty crazy, guys. Let us know, as always, if you have any questions. If there's any follow-ups or anything, hit us in the comments below or send us a private message. If you want to sit down and chat about the market more, or if you're more interested in finding out, hey, what my home's worth, what it can really sell for, get in contact with Ryan. If you want to know what rates look like, pricing, and you're interested in finding out some scenarios for different loan options, definitely let me know. We're happy to help. We'll walk you through all this and make sure that you're making a smart financial decision with your purchase.
Absolutely. You guys, we've talked way too long today, we wanted
a lot of good info
to inform you. We wanted to give you some statistics behind why we've been saying what we've been saying. So hopefully that helps you out. Big Cast, do we have anybody
No comments?
No comments.
Nope.
No
All
comments,
right.
no questions. All right,
All
you
good.
can always comment later. But yeah, we just wanted to get that stuff out there for you guys to see,
Mhm.
maybe for you guys to think about, chew
Yeah.
on a little bit, and then shoot us a message for engagement conversation later. So with that being said,
See you
thank you guys so much.
Have a great weekend.
day. And that's it.